Welcome to Marvel Champions Podcast, a podcast about Marvel Champions, the card game. I'm your host, Scott, and with me, as always, my co-host, Ryan.
Good to be back.
Oh, Ryan, another fun episode. And we've just been enjoying so many fun games and getting to play some older heroes. I think it's time for another champion checkup.
Champion Checkup.
Yeah.
We've got to have theme songs for all these things.
Yeah, we need to figure out how to get some cool, like auto tune or something, some synthesizer with some auto tune.
Oh, we need to do that. I mean, because I'm tone deaf, so autotune definitely fix that.
Yeah, and I can't sing or carry a tune, so
My skills are not in singing; they're in playing a card game.
Maybe we'll have maybe we'll get the help of some AI to assist us.
I mean, who knows? Maybe we are AI.
Ooh, well, I was trying to segue into our champion checkup villain for this week. And speaking of AI, inside the Marvel Universe, what's one of the most evil AI characters that has been in the Marvel lore universe?
Great setup there.
I was trying.
Let's see. Should I describe the MCU version?
It's Vision. Okay.
Okay.
Just kidding.
Yeah, good point. Good point. No, of course you are talking about Ultron.
Ultron. Yes. Who voiced him in the movies? Was it David Spader? Or something to that effect?
David Spader is the comedian, I think.
No, I'm pretty sure that's the dude.
No, I know who you're talking about. It is Spade.
Right now.
It's not David Spader.
It's not David Spade either.
Spader. James Spader.
James Spader. Sorry, James. Good old
Jim. And then David Spade. Yeah, it's David Spade. So we we just mix the two people together.
We combine them. They're pretty much Vision. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. There we go.
Well, when I hear his voice, I always think of the character he played in The Office, and I just loved his character in The Office for some reason.
I remember watching the trailer for Age of Ultron movie, and I was like, "This is gonna be so good." And then I can't remember, but I watched it again a while back, and I was like, "It's all right."
yeah, it's like it's okay. It doesn't hold up as good as some of the others, especially for that time.
Yeah, I think it had a huge expectation, and it just didn't quite stick the landing. And then, of course, there's other stuff along with all that, but
sure. All right. Well, we had Ultron,
and we stuck him with the encounter set known as Exodus.
Yeah. So for anybody that's new listening, we're with our champion checkups. We're kind of going back and playing some older villains, older heroes, but spicing them up just a little bit. And we're doing that. We found is pretty good is with the encounter sets. And Exodus did not disappoint.
I want to say this is the first time I've played with Exodus.
Yeah, those few that came out in those last couple of heroes we got, like the last 4 heroes that came out in the Mutant Genesis cycle, I hadn't played a whole bunch of them. So it's been nice to kind of plop them in here and there and see how they play.
Yeah. So what did we think of Ultron coming back to this? Or do we need to talk about which heroes we threw in first?
How about we just introduce our heroes and then we'll jump back to Ultron, maybe set up what we did and why we did it for Ultron.
Cool. I guess I will quickly say that I chose to go with Black Widow Justice. And personally, I have never been a huge fan of Black Widow. I played her a few times and just never could get her clicking right, but we'll have to wait and see how it went this time.
It's true. And I went with my all-time favorite core box hero, She-Hulk. That's sarcasm.
That was a joke, everyone.
I think I played her like 2 times, maybe before this, 3 times at most.
Never in a group play. You've probably done solo, but I
Yeah,
do not remember ever playing, have seen you play with her.
so I went with a She-Hulk leadership build, and my deck that I tried to put together was titled "Ready to Rumble." We'll talk about that.
That's a very original title of your.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah,
So Ultron,
Ultron.
I I remember him always being like that, just intimidating third, that final villain. Like you get your progression through like Rhino, and then Claw. He introduces like some different mechanics and adds in like some extra side schemes that give you Hazard and Crisis, and then you get to Ultron, and it's just very intimidating, especially like from the original core box.
Yeah, I remember when we first played him. I'm pretty sure we lost, and I was just like, "How in the world are you supposed to beat him?" He keeps popping up minions and all these things, and I was so frustrated after that first game. Um, Lo and behold, things have definitely changed.
Yeah, I would say with the earlier card pull, he definitely was a lot more difficult than I would say that he is now. I think there's better strategies around him. I think there's cards that um, can really slow him down, because that's his whole thing. Is he if you don't keep it managed, he just spins out of control on you. Whether that's with all the minions coming out through his activations, or I think like the biggest thing with him is his main scheme. The first
Hmm.
stage is so short. The second one just uh, it hurts you because you're like, I can't really take a minion, so I guess I'll add the thwart. Or you're like, ooh, I can't take any thwart, and I guess I have to take a minion. And then you get down to his third stage, and you can't remove threat. It's just a ticking time bomb at that point, and it then you're just kind of running and gunning, trying to beat him before the game ends because you're on a timer.
Yeah, yeah. I definitely remember when once we figured out that, hey, if we can somehow stay on the first main scheme, his he becomes so much more manageable. But as soon as you flip to that second one, things can quickly get out of control if you're not careful. And I think when we finally figured that out, we heavily focused on making sure that didn't flip, and it definitely made that whole scenario better. When we first played. Now, it was a little different this game. That was our goal going into it, as always with Ultron. But we got caught with an advance that didn't help. I think it was an advance, and
Yep.
he schemed, and boom, it popped. And it was pretty early. It was like the second or third turn. He already was on the second scheme.
Yeah. Yeah, you're definitely right. Like that's the big strategy is keep that as long as you can. That first stage of his main scheme as long as you can.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, you're
So
right. It flipped, and it changes the dynamic of the game that you're playing.
yeah, it forces you instead of kind of just keeping the status quo, it forces you to make one bad decision versus another bad decision. Um, and in some cases, it's not. I mean, one scheme isn't. It was a one or two scheme. They have that
I think it's two scheme. I think it's add a minion or two scheme.
or
Or
two scheme. Yeah.
yeah,
Um, I mean, two scheme is not great, and adding a minion's not great, especially if it's coming from your deck, because then you're just losing that card. Um, it's a tough choice. And then when he attacks, there goes another card. I mean, so it can definitely get out of control if you're not careful.
Yeah, and that's the other thing with Ultron is that he not only does he give you that minion, but potentially he's taken away amazing cards that you're now missing out on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it stinks. It's like a I don't know if it's like less painful, but it's the like Kang's obligation where he takes like 8 of your cards.
Oh yeah,
I hate that one. And this one does the same thing, just like one at a time, though. And then it hurts you even more because they're minions.
yeah. Death by a thousand drones.
Yeah, yeah. And I would say in this game, this is the first time I felt like the upgrades of the drones played more of a role in the game compared to other ones. Um, so there's just for those listening, if you didn't know, which I'm sure some of you know, there's an upgrade that increases the drone minion from a one attack, one scheme, one health to two attack and two health. I don't think it boosts the scheme, right?
No, no, it's just the health and the attack.
Yeah, and that's pretty nasty. But there's two of those, so it
Yeah,
all of a sudden boosts him again. And I think we got both of them at one time, and we quickly got rid of at least one of them. But we sat on one of those for quite a while, and it was I don't think it impacted the game enough, it for our circumstance. But man, that can really be brutal.
yeah, and they came out like you said. If they weren't like in the same encounter phase, they were like right back to back, and
Yeah,
it changed the dynamic of the game because what we were planning to ping here one here it was like, ooh, now I need three, and a lot of the allies that we were running couldn't take those out. They could take out the ones or maybe a two, but they definitely couldn't do a three.
yeah, it definitely upped the ante on that, and it made us really have to focus on getting rid of those. But I'm sure we've had it in other games, but it felt like on this one that those really played a role in some decisions that we had to make.
Yeah. Let's see what else about Ultron.
Um,
He
hmm,
just like the other thing is, he has his like interrupts where after he attacks you, he adds a drone, so you're getting like that extra one ping to your hero from that
hmm,
drone because it
yeah,
it'll either come out right after he attacks, or I think stage two it comes out when he attacks, and then it boosts his attack. Um, so all the other ones you're just worried about. Okay, I need to figure out how to either defend or chump block with this big villain attack. But then now I've got to worry about one here, one here, one here, and now I've. It's almost like I got hit by the villain for three, but it's just all these drones.
yeah. That's exactly what he does. He just pings you to death, forces you to block him, and then just pings you with his little dudes. Especially when you're in that second stage, it really just makes it so tough.
And then the other thing is like it creates that false sense of like, okay, well I guess I got to go down to escape the three minions in front of me, and then he schemes for three or four, and then all the minions scheme, and
Uh-huh.
you're adding 6, 7 thread.
Yeah, yeah. Um, outside of those, and I'm looking it up, it's upgraded drones is the attachment that increases them. He did get out his program transmitter,
Oh yeah.
which is his plus one scheme, but it says after Ultron schemes, place one threat on each side scheme. That's pretty nasty. Now, I
Well,
don't think it, well, I didn't think it played a role as much because of the deck that I was running. Um, but that was a card that he had for a while.
see, that was the thing is we let it stay on him because we didn't have any side schemes, and then like the one time that he did scheme, he had like three side schemes out.
Yeah, yeah. That was one thing. His deck comes with three side schemes, and I don't really remember. I know they came out, but I don't remember them that much, which tells me that they weren't much of an impact in our game.
No, they're just kind of roadblocks. One I think comes out and says, put the top card out as a drone minion or top two cards or something.
Hmm. Yeah,
Um, and they're just kind of annoying.
yeah, yeah. And we kind of touched on this, but I never. Maybe there's another a villain that does this. Um, but he is making you deck out faster by the use of his minions, and then one of his side schemes after when it's revealed makes you discard three cards from your deck. And I guess it gets that kind of aspect of that villain gets overshadowed because those cards become minions. But getting decked out faster just means more encounter cards, and so it's generally not a great thing other than you're just cycling your cards to hopefully get some new better ones. But I don't know if there's a villain
Opinion.
that focuses on decking you out often. I think Electro, the
Mm-hmm.
modular, does that, but I don't know if there's really a villain that does that
Yeah,
other than him
like the closest thing I can think of, and it's not the same at all. But like Sandman, he's decking himself out.
himself out. Yeah,
Um, Maybe like you mentioned, Kang. He's got an obligation that pulls a lot of cards off out of your deck. There's somebody else that does something similar that pulls cards, like five of them. Maybe it was Mojo. Mojo's
yeah,
got a encounter set that I think does something like that.
yeah. I think that might be a frustrating but a good idea for a villain in the future, of kind of focusing on messing with the player's deck. Um, and there's modular sets that kind of do that, like Mystique does that,
Mm-hmm.
where she throws cards in your deck. Um, so I think a villain that focuses on that rather than modular sets might be an interesting one for the future.
Yep.
So,
So what do you think about Exodus?
oh man, Exodus stinks. I mean, he's a good modular set because I think he played. I think his set of cards played were very prominent when they came out. We noticed, um, especially his side scheme, the Herald of Avalon. That was pretty rough.
That one's rough because it puts you into like a conundrum because it has a hazard icon and it has a when defeated. So you kind of have to like weigh your options of, do I try and get rid of it real quick, but then I have to deal with the when defeated, or do I just let it sit out there and just deal with the extra encounter card?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, in some ways it's good because you can kind of plan for it, but yeah, the risk of keeping it out, that extra encounter card, is just not very fun.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the alternative is the when defeated is it goes and it fetches Exodus. And
Yeah,
then,
yeah,
and the key on that card is it says, you go fetch him and reveals him. And when revealed is he goes and he gets his psionic shield, which pretty much makes you kill him twice.
yeah.
Um,
And adds +1 attack in scheme.
yes, yes. And I thought that was funny because the psionic shield, when it comes out, it says attached to a minion. Otherwise, it gains surge. It came out one time, and the only minion was like a face down drone. So we ended up having to kill that drone twice.
Hmm.
It got a psionic
Thank
shield, even
goodness.
though it doesn't have a brain.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think he's a good encounter set to increase the difficulty. I didn't think he was over difficult, uh, impossible kind of thing, but definitely was a head turner when that came out. It was kind of like, okay, now we got to figure this out.
Yeah,
It wasn't something we can just be like, okay, cool, it came out. It was
and
definitely a focus.
he doesn't retaliate, so he does kind of stink there. With
Yes.
6 health, I think we've talked about in the past, you're either killing him in two activations, or you're having to waste your big attack.
Yeah,
So he's good, kind of slowing you down in that way.
yeah, yeah. And
His no, good.
I was gonna say in this game, it was okay. I think I got retaliated once on an attack, but we had methods of getting around his retaliation. So
Yep. His treacheries, I think, were kind of worthless because it wants to play with that acolyte trait, and he was the only acolyte. So whenever it came out, it pretty much says that they acolytes activate against you, and if not, it
mm-hmm.
just gains surge. So that card pretty much just became a surge card.
Yeah, yeah. So, but those other ones, Sonic Shield, him, the minion himself, and then that side scheme really big impact on this game, which was good. It was
Yeah.
good to see it be impactful.
The only other side note is the Herald of Avalon artwork is, whew, it's not the best.
I thought you were gonna say it is the best.
No, Rogue. That card does not do Rogue justice.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting image.
Interesting take on the characters.
Yes, they have interesting shaped faces.
Yeah.
Wolverine kind of looks dumbfounded.
Mm-hmm.
All right,
Yeah.
man.
All right. Anything?
Anything else?
No. Like it was fun. Like I said, I hadn't played him Ultron in a while, and it was nice to kind of know what to expect. But it didn't make it any easier.
Yeah, yeah. He's definitely a villain that's still really good. Changes up the game because he having those one minion or the easy to kill minions. It can be very fun with some of the heroes to play with, and um, he's definitely one that can be semi easy if you're really prepared for it, but can be very difficult if you're not quite prepared. So
I like him in the way that he's almost like a 50-50 game. Like you should be able to beat him, but then there might be cases where you just get a really bad draw, luck of the draw, and he can just win.
yeah,
Whatever
yeah.
whatever it is, whether scheming, minions just come out like crazy. You go from like 0 minions to like 4 in front of you in one villain phase because of him activating multiple times a treachery card or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's definitely approved to keep playing.
Yep, I approve it. Champion Checkup approved.
There we go. All right, let's talk about these heroes.
All right. Are you going to be long-winded with Black Widow?
What is that supposed to mean?
I don't know. You're just more in-depth at analyses, so She-Hulk to me
Uh,
is pretty straightforward.
all right. Well then, I will go first
Okay.
with Natasha Romanoff. So, like I said, Black Widow, Justice. The deck focus that I had was to do a lot of confusion and to do a lot of flipping. Um, and so that's what I did. I confused a lot, which is why one of Ultron's upgrades just didn't. His thwart upgrade just really didn't do much because we had him confused quite a bit. So Black Widow is one of those interesting heroes because she's got that covert ops, which is her thwart card, remove four threat and confuse the villain. That's pretty solid, and you can do it in alter ego, which I did. Um, but she was it was probably one of the better games I've had with her. I think my biggest struggle. Oh, by the way, I think Winter Soldier as an ally for her is great. Being able to pop out a 4-cost ally for free is pretty wonderful.
Yeah,
Um,
it reminds me of Rogue with Gambit.
yeah, yeah. Um, it's very helpful, and he's a good ally. Um, but I would say for her, the thing that I encountered a lot that I kind of struggled with was a lot of her good preparations are hero only um, effects.
I think all of her preparations are
I,
hero.
yes, her acrobatics is hero, her grappling hook's hero, her widow's bite's hero. I don't think
Yeah.
she has any other
Mm.
kit ones. Um, they're all hero, and it makes sense because her hero ability is when you trigger one, you deal damage, which I used quite a bit, and that was nice. Um, but it made a deck kind of staying in alter ego a lot. Made some of her those good preparations not as effective. I had to use other preparations that could activate, not in hero form. So I think that was the thing that was the bummer the most. And it's not her fault. It was more just the play style that I chose. Um, but I wish I was able to do some of those other ones as often. But because I didn't, I basically save up. And so when I was in hero form, there was some big turns where I was killing minions and stopping encounter cards and all that. So that was pretty fun to be able to just prevent a whole turn of disaster.
To like completely control the phase of the villain. Yeah, it's very nice.
Yeah, yeah. So I think I think her kit itself, she's got a lot of good stuff in it. It's pretty solid. Um, I think she's a hero that you could probably do with all the aspects and find something pretty fun with. That just complements. I mean, even though there are preparation cards in the aspects, she really focuses on her kit. Um, but those aspects can help boost some of those things. Like I've seen you do a protection build that
Mm.
um, carried off of her synth suit, which I think was great. Um, I think she probably has the potential to have a good aggression deck and leadership deck and all that. So I think even though she's not the one I always come back to, I think she has a very solid setup for players to keep coming back and building with these new card sets.
Yeah, I wish she got a little more aspect preparation love. I
Yeah,
know there's
yeah,
some like here and there over the course of the game, but I just don't feel like there's as many as I would like because she's one of my favorite heroes, definitely from that first wave. But for the whole game, she's one that is real easy to go back to for me or
yeah,
pick up and be like, let's play. Like if I'm going for like a serious, like we want to win, she's definitely one I can make
yeah,
that happen with.
yeah, yeah. Out of the newer cards that I brought to the table for her, um, I brought in her some shield cards. I brought in Homeland Intervention, which is the Justice zero cost event, and it's shield focus, so you can exhaust up to 3 shield cards you control, remove 2 threat. And she shield in alter ego. She's got her safe house, which is shield. If I had like the helicarrier out, that's a shield. Or if I have, I had Agent Colson out at one point, and he shield. I was able to use that a couple times, and for 0 cost, removing 2 threat for each shield, it's pretty great.
Yeah, I did notice you really keying in on that shield aspect, and that's one thing I've not ran with her. So that was cool to see that work and actually do well.
Yeah, I think shield justice is probably one of the better archetypes, but you kind of have to fully focus on it
You gotta
with some of
commit.
the cards.
You gotta commit to being shield.
Yeah, yeah. Um, the only other card that was, and this is, I guess, brand new, is the Breaking and Entering, which is the justice event where you have to be a spy or a thief, and you remove 3 thwart from a scheme. Um, the big thing of that one is you could do it in alter ego. So I did use that a few times, and it was pretty good.
Yeah, I like your analysis on that one. Her justice, she has a really good potential for a alter ego heavy thwart maintain,
Mm-hmm.
but the trade off is all of her good kit preparation cards. You can't do.
Yep, yep. They almost become like you're a preparing for a big hero turn, or B, you're saving up for Winter Soldier to pop them out for free.
Yeah, that's and she plays a little that way. She's very setup front loaded, and then once you're good, that's when you go and you stay in um, hero form for as long as you can.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, I think she's good. I think people still visit her, and I think with all the new cards, there's still some more opportunities to make her be great. I think she's definitely as the hero rankings, probably in the upper tier of characters, as long as you can have the right deck to complement her.
Yeah, I think I think her weakness is definitely um, her damage output. And if you're needing a big damage output, she can put out
Yes.
damage, but it's one at a time.
Yeah, she's not a big damage dealer. Her her dance of death is is pretty good in certain scenarios. Like sometimes it felt just very difficult to pay the 3 cost to get
So
it out.
that's my thing with Dance of Death is like I agree it's a good card, but I feel like I only ever play it on average in any given game with her once, maybe twice.
Yeah, and I think definitely the type of deck you run could probably affect that. Like a justice deck, I was definitely focused on thwarting. So
Sure.
and the attacking I was doing was focused on her abilities and the preparations. So it didn't quite the need for Dance of Death didn't come very often.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's definitely something I think you could utilize. And I'm just kind of thinking some aggression cards. I think there's some that could benefit from Dance of Death potentially. Maybe some type of overkill setup with it. Maybe I'd have to think about it.
Yeah. Cards that um, increase like the damage that
Mm-hmm.
the attacks give
Yeah.
or deal out. Yeah. All right.
So
So Black Widow's champion checkup approved.
she passed with a good bill of health.
Sweet. Off to the next one. Next,
You sound so excited.
Jennifer Walters. What can I say? She's an amazing attorney. She objected multiple times in my game. Um, but so my thing with She-Hulk is um, she her cards for hero form can be very expensive. She only has a hand size of 4. Um, my analysis is usually the player kit. Those are like your awesome, amazing cards that you want to go to. But like, I'm pretty sure I could get rid of half of her deck and had the same game because I just didn't use half of them. Um, so I went with leadership, and I was definitely gaming Ultron. So like my MVPs were Hawkeye,
Mm-hmm.
or Ally Hawkeye. 4 arrow tokens, just like killing those minions as they were coming out.
Very helpful.
Very helpful because it takes that choice like, do I add threat or do I take a minion? I'm taking a minion. Boom. Blows up before it even comes out. So,
Yep.
so that was awesome. Squirrel Girl blowing everything up. Same thing. Like if I know I'm gonna be getting her out, we can coordinate and be like, dude, just take the minion. I'll take care of it for you. Take care of it.
Yep. Yep.
My other thing was trying to use, so the ready to rumble was trying to ready as many times because her attack is a 3, her base is a 3, so wanted to use that as much as I could. I was playing like Earth's Mightiest Heroes, let you exhaust an Avenger, ready another Avenger, so exhaust an Avenger ally, ready myself. I focused a lot on card draw. So I would play, what's the one where you exhaust everybody and draw cards?
Oh, I strengthen numbers.
Strength in number. So strength in number because I would just get out tons. Because I got like an Avengers Mansion, and I got out a Triskelion, and I would utilize like Stinger. So getting like 4 or 5 allies out. Not only could they help with pinging the damage, they had nice special abilities like Maria Hill. They could kind of ping off damage, or I could just keep them, use them for draw power, and then chump block with them when I needed to. I will say I did play Hellcat. It was more towards the end of the game. When she came up early, there was something going on that I just couldn't play, or I needed to do something else.
I remember
Um,
that.
but I will say I did utilize going with the whole ready to rumble thing. Her 1-2 punch, I used that a bunch.
It's a pretty solid card.
To me, that was like my MVP from her kit. It's only one cost event. It lets you, after you make a basic attack, you get to ready. So that's what I focused on. Was readying. Her legal practice, I just think this is going to sound weird, but I think it's too expensive. Yes, it's a 0 cost, but to do anything, you have to get rid of your whole hand. Well, you can choose to discard up to 5 cards to remove 1 threat for each of the cards you discarded. So it's too expensive.
Yeah, it's because if you think about it, it's basically a 5 cost, 5 thwart
Right.
event, and that is not great. Though I mean, it can be done in alter ego, which is great. It is a thwart event.
But here's the thing. So I just had the same thought. Like, it's a thwart event. You can play a card that makes a thwart 1 less to play, but it already costs 0. You can't. It doesn't do anything extra.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think I may have played it once in desperation, but I do think if it was like remove 1 threat from every scheme or remove 2 threat from a scheme for each card discarded, I think there's more viability in that way.
So that was one thing that now I will say her other card is her other like thwart support slightly better, but I never got it out. It came at really odd times, or it was a minion all the time for me. It lets you exhaust it. You can spend a mental resource and you can remove 2 threat from a scheme, which to me is a little bit better than discarding your whole hand. One thing I noticed with like all the core box heroes, there's only one hero that has an actual like thwart event card. Out of all 5 heroes, there's only one. Besides, legal practice, yes, it's technically a thwart event, but it's awful. Captain Marvel's the only other one, and I think it does 2, and then if you're aerial, it does 2 off of another one. So I will say that the thwart events and player kits have gotten significantly better since the core box.
I've actually never noticed that. You're right. And there's very few thwart events. It all came from the starting justice
For
aspect.
Justice. For
Yeah.
Justice is the thwart event for every player kit from
Yep.
the core box.
You're right. Right. I never thought about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. For me, She Hulk was always a struggle. And then I was reading on one of the Marvel CDB and
CBD.
CBD,
Yeah.
and I read someone's deck list, and they basically said like you're playing She Hulk wrong, and once I read that and kind of figured out how she plays, where she is designed to be thwart and alter ego, and then do a bunch of damage and hero, and kind of be consistent flipping at the right times. Um, it really changed the outlook of how I play her, and it's really helped be able to play her better. With that said, you're still right. Legal practice is not the greatest card. I think Superhuman Law Division is pretty good, especially if you can get set up, because you're always spending a resource, which isn't as fun. Especially when newer cards have come out, where you've got like Clear the Area, which is one resource for 2 threat, but you also get to draw a card if you finish up a side scheme.
Right.
Um,
I
so it's
think
just not as good as the card pool has grown.
right. I think like the support, the Superhuman Law Division, to me is fine. You pay one, you remove 2 threat. One cost for 2 threat removal is on par. That's not out of control, and it's right on par, right? My only thing is, it would have been nice to have some type of support or ability that lets you generate that mental resource.
Yeah, that's one thing that is lacking in her deck, is some type of generation. Except for she does, but it's a very expensive.
Yeah, so that was one card. You're assuming her focused rage. That's her
Yep.
like that's her card to make up for her small hand size in hero form. Is you
Mm-hmm.
deal yourself a damage and then you get to draw a card. But it in it itself too is so expensive. It's 3
It is.
cost. You know, if you draw it as on your hero form, you only have a hand size of 4, so it's the card you get to play. And then even if you get to use it to draw a card, you only have 1 card. So it's not great.
Yeah.
There are 2 of them. I never got out both, but I did get out one, and I will say that my game did get a little more enjoyable once I was able to get that out.
Yeah.
So if you do play a She-Hulk, to me that is one of her like signature cards that you need to get out to get her going. If not, she feels really stalled and kind of just it takes the fun out of it. It makes it kind of a frustrating time.
Yeah. You do need to get that out. That's one you want to focus on. Um, what'd you think of split personality?
So I did like that one, except for you kind of run into the same thing. It costs 3. If I draw it in hero form, it's the card that I play. Granted, it does do awesome things. It lets you flip and then draw up to your alter ego hand size of 6. So you do get kind of a really nice hero turn, because then you can flip right back up. You get to use her ability to deal 2 damage when you flip, and then you've got a hand size of 6. So to me, that is one of her shining stars of her deck. And it's always
Yeah.
fun to like use it, flip back up, and then just come out swinging.
Yeah. I enjoy that card a lot. So
Um, Ground Stomp. I think it's like the Ultron card. 2 costs, deal 1 damage to everything, 1 damage to each enemy. So I was able to kind of clear the board, But I think we had this conversation while we were playing. That card, in essence, is Squirrel Girl, but I get to use Squirrel Girl at least once and then chump block with her for the same cost.
Yeah, it is. It is. I think that this was a big miss.
Yeah.
Something needs to be adjusted. I don't know if dropping the cost to 1 is it. I think it's just too weak. If you kept the 2 and just made it deal 2 damage to each enemy, I think there's a lot more viability with it.
Sure. And definitely it's a multiplayer game card.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
using that on a solo play, you might as well just try and get a good, decent attack event from any aspect.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's probably like protection attack events that are better than that one. And that's saying a lot.
That's probably true.
Her big attack is the Gamma Slam. I was able to utilize that once, and I feel like it's one of those where, to really maximize it, you got to really beat yourself down because it lets you do damage based off of how much damage you've taken. I view this card a lot like the Full Blast in Cyclops' deck. Like, it's big and it's awesome, but it only really ever manifests itself to really be good like once a game.
Yeah.
Now, granted, if you're dealing 14 damage, if you're playing solo, you're pretty much wiping out, a stage of a villain,
Yes.
which is nice. I think that's her most expensive card too. I think it's a 4.
Yeah,
So,
it's a 4.
Hypothetically, if you have 0 setup and you can't even play that card in hero form. If you started in hero form,
Correct. Yeah.
I was able to supplement Quinn Carrier. I ran something else that gave me some others. I was able to get her going, but she's one of
cost.
She's very high cost, and I think because of she's high cost, it really made me wanted to play the route of basic attack, basic attack, basic attack. Do not exhaust in the villain phase, because that's the only thing that I felt like I could do consistently was basic attack.
And she kind of has that. It kind of wants you to do that too, because you're taking damage from focused rage. You're not wanting to defend, so you can be readied to kind of prep for that Gamma Slam. It's almost like trying to get you to Gamma Slam,
Yeah.
which I think is fine in some ways, but as a game evolves and stuff, it kind of is a one note, and it'd be nice not to always feel like, well, I've got to take damage because I've got to make Gamma Slam worth it.
Yeah. Speaking of like basic attack, she does have her superhuman strength, which gives her +2 attack. And then once you do attack, it gets discarded and you can stun the attacked enemy. So with the new rules to having a valid target, I wanted to like kill a minion and get to keep it. But I never did because I felt like it was a big waste. Because everything was like I didn't have any overkill, so it wouldn't have been worth it. I didn't have any cards from like aggression where you can like heal from the amount of excess damage.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to use that big basic attack, 5 to the villain and then stun him. So I never got to use the new She-Hulk cheat. So
Yeah. I definitely think that with certain decks, especially with these changes, I think there is possibility for some unique plays with her, especially with that superhuman strength. That it just didn't work out in this particular scenario with Ultron.
yeah. But I will say I think I played that card once or twice because I was really trying to focus on that basic attack, and that's a quick way to really soup that up. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it was fun to play once she got going, but it was a struggle to get going. And I never felt like I was, except until like the very end of the game when I finally had like my focus rages out, that I was really like firing on all cylinders with her. It felt really clunky. So
Yeah, I think you had the uh, the ready card, didn't you? The basic ready event.
which one was that one?
Limitless strength.
Oh yeah. So it is nice that she does have the higher hit points, and that was keyed into my Ready to Rumble. I played
Yeah,
3 of those, so that was nice, and it helps her cost curve because it's only one cost. So if I was able to get one of those, I at least knew I was going to be attacking twice, which
yeah,
6 damage is about the same as a big hero event attack.
yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah. Um,
So, what's your verdict?
ugh, still struggles. Well, if you game her based off of like a aspect archetype, um, she may be able to do better. But you can like I said, just ignore half of her kit and and just focus on aspect and basic cards,
Yeah,
and you're gonna have a better time.
she definitely has the core box issues. Um, I mean, when you count out legal practice and ground stomp, that's 4 cards that are just resources. You never play them, and with her small hand size, it can be an absolute struggle. Um, so I understand. I really like her, but it's one that I think with the new rule changes, I think people should revisit.
Yeah,
But uh, I
no,
was gonna say, but if that really doesn't tickle your fancy, then there's just not a whole lot to revisit that's unique for probably a decent amount of players. I mean, I will continue to revisit her, but I don't know if everyone will.
yeah. Oh, I was gonna say something. I completely forgot about it. She's just forgettable for me. Okay, so like I think a lot of her comes down to your play, like your player's play style. Um, she just doesn't play. She's not the character. She doesn't do the things that I like in a character. A lot of good consistency
Mm,
and versatility and consistency for me is key for me in enjoying a player or a hero. And to me, she just does not have that, or I can't get it going.
yeah, yeah. Because you've seen me when I had my Hellcat deck, leadership deck with her, where I was just popping out Hellcat nonstop, and that was very effective, and it flowed great. But I had to really focus in on that,
Yeah,
and so well, cool.
cool beans.
I love it. I love these checkups because number
Yeah,
one, we get to play, and number two, it's just fun to talk about some of these older ones.
yeah, and get our thoughts and kind of spark those old memories of playing. For me, it helps me remember, like, oh, now I remember why I kind of got sucked into this game. Just how fun it can be, the villains, the heroes. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, yeah. All right. So if anybody has any recommendations on checkups, by all means, let us know. Email us.
Yeah, we're hanging in that kind of wave one a little bit. So if you
I
got a
think
wave one hero that you want us to try, maybe an aspect, we'll definitely try and make it work. Or if you like twerking with She-Hulk and you want to tell us about a deck that works for her, for you, definitely let us know. And you can do that by emailing us at marvelchampionspod@gmail.com. And as always, if you want to go from a chump to a champ, listen to the Marvel Champions podcast. Thanks.
Bye.